The original teaser trailer for Pixar's Cars from 2005 is something that I have a really soft spot for. I can remember this teaser being on the Incredibles DVD and I watched it on loop constantly because of how cool it was. This was before Cars had even been released, so my excitement for the movie was through the roof. The teaser has been on my mind recently, and since on this channel I make video essays on pretty much any topic that I love, I thought why not make a video talking about this brief trailer, because it isn't really talked about all that much. However, because this trailer is so short and doesn't really have much of a story to it, I'm going to structure this essay a little bit different compared to some of my other ones on this channel. Rather than analysing the trailer for its storytelling, which in this case is pretty bare bones and non-existent, I'm going to analyse it by pointing out a few interesting details that the trailer has that could easily be missed considering how rapid fire it is. So for this video, I'll have a section for each topic I want to cover, and that's where I'll discuss them in detail, and then I'll give my thoughts on the trailer. Of course, I'll still try to tell a story while I'm doing it. All that sound good? Alright, let's go. The first aspect is the similarities in certain camera shots between the teaser and the final movie. These are only brief, so I'll quickly run over them. The first being the low angle shot of one of the racer's rear tyres, almost like the camera is mounted in the back corner of the racer, as it races up to some of the others just ahead. This camera shot is pretty much identical to what was seen right at the very start of the final movie when Lightning McQueen is giving himself that iconic talk. You know the one.
Speed. I am speed.
The shots are pretty much the same, as is the one straight after in the teaser, another low angle one that follows the racers as they pass by. Once again, this was identical to the next shot seen in McQueen's pep talk to himself. Quite interesting that these were the first shots in the teaser trailer and in the final movie too, and I'm referring to the start of the race as of course the teaser starts with McQueen and Mater talking about bees, but there's nothing really interesting to talk about there, hence why I skipped it. Since this teaser trailer was released in 2005, though I've read that it was actually made in 2004, the movie was obviously still in development at the time. Cars wouldn't release until 2006. As with anything that's being worked on, in movies, books, or even YouTube videos, it's very common for things to change during development, and Cars was no exception. This teaser features very early designs of the Piston Cup races, and they look drastically different compared to what was seen in the final movie. For starters, the races all look more like actual stock cars that you'd see in something like NASCAR, and none of them really stand out from one another. They're all pretty much the same car with a different colour scheme. It's likely that one general model was made in the animation suite and was just given different palettes to make up each individual racer so they'd be unique and varied. They also have a much more gritty and aggressive look here, with all of them constantly scrunching their faces as they battle to win the race. Personally, I do like this look for the racers, but I can see why they were all changed for the final movie, as if you look at most of those, all of them stand out for themselves. Some do share the same base design, but they're different enough, and in a way all of them have become quite iconic amongst fans of the series. As I said, I do like the classic stock car look of these races in this teaser, but I don't think these would have really worked for the final movie. While talking about the races, they all have sponsorships all over them, which is a guarantee considering their nature. Many of these sponsors did not make it into the final movie, thus only appearing in this teaser. I've got a list of all the sponsors thanks to the Pixar Cars fandom wiki, since all of them are nigh on impossible to spot with a naked eye when watching the teaser. These sponsorships are Jackson's Jumbo Pretzels, Papa Rivera's Low Fat Lard, Smork, Hidden City Cafe, Our Queen, Tiny's Frozen Corn Dogs, Dr. Catmull's Old Fashioned Root Beer, Ben and Audrey's Frozen Bagels, and Blades. These aren't all the sponsors though. There are two other sponsors for Pizza Planet and Al's Toy Barn, both obvious references to the Toy Story movies, both of which have a prominent appearance in the first and second movies respectively. There are two other sponsorships that are quite interesting, these being Oreo and Pennzoil, both real life companies that will likely drop from the final movie due to copyright. Three more sponsors are Dynaco, Trunk Fresh and Vitaline. All these ended up in the final movie, with Dynaco famously being used for the King strict weathers. As for Trunk Fresh and Vitaline, it's interesting that the racers sporting both of these sponsors get quite prominent roles in this teaser. Trunk Fresh of course was the main racer to get the pit stop, showing how those are done in the Cars world, and Vitaline spins out on the final lap. The last two sponsors are Corrosion Seal and Nitroaid. Nitroaid ended up being used in the final movie, but Corrosion Seal did not, and the two racers having these sponsors have the most iconic scene in the teaser, and these two are interesting enough on their own to talk about, which I'll get to very shortly. One last note in this section is the decal stickers, which feature some more Easter eggs. The logos for A Bug's Life and Toy Story 2 are visible, as is the CDA logo and 2319 code from Monsters Inc. Pixar likely threw these in as obvious Easter eggs, something they're known for doing, but it's also possible that they had leftover aspects in the animation engine and just used them to fill space up on the races. This idea could also be applied to the Pizza Planet and Al's Toy Barn sponsors too, but this is just me speculating. Easily the most unique and interesting part of this teaser is the appearances of Racer 57 and Racer 13. Long before Cars was even animated in CGI, storyboards from as early as 2002 depict Lightning McQueen with 57 as his number, and this red stock car, who's easily the most prominently shown in this teaser, bears this same number. Interestingly, this same racer also appears in another early animation piece with Doc Hudson and Luigi in Radiator Springs, back when the movie started being animated. So this pretty much reinforces the fact that Racer 57 is in fact a prototype version of Lightning McQueen. This prototype McQueen ends up getting into a bout of trading paint with Racer 13, who's a dark green stock car. From this brief scuffle, we can see that Racer 13 didn't hesitate to bash prototype McQueen. He knew exactly who was at the side of him and just went on the aggressive. This shows us that these two have some sort of rivalry going on. Considering the fact that Racer 57 is the prototype Lightning McQueen, it's highly likely that Racer 13 is a prototype version of Chick Hicks, the main antagonist of the movie and top rival to McQueen. As I mentioned about all the racers being redesigned, these two are no exception. Both McQueen and Chick ended up looking drastically different in the final movie. McQueen's number was changed to 95 along with his sponsor to Rusty's. He also did not resemble a typical stock car in any way, and his final design was unique and has become iconic. Chick's number was changed to 86, as was his sponsor to Hostile Takeover Bank. He was also a much lighter green and more closely resembled the Buick Riviera. Needless to say, this was a good change as both of them became so well known in these guises. Still though, it's honestly pretty cool that this teaser gave us an early glimpse of an iconic rivalry that was a main focal point in the final movie. Luigi makes a very brief cameo at the end of the race in the teaser, as the bearer waving the checkered flag as Prototype McQueen wins the race. Just like Prototype McQueen, Luigi also appears in the same early test animation with the former character and Doc Hudson. Considering how early into production this teaser was made, it seems likely that Luigi was amongst one of the first Radiator Springs residents that was modelled, and he was used here as somewhat of a placeholder. But I'm just speculating again. One minor interesting detail I noticed is that his eyes are a different colour compared to the final movie. Here his eyes are blue, but in the movie they are brown. Other than that, not much else to say regarding his appearance in this teaser as it's less than 3 seconds, but I decided to mention it anyway on account of his other appearance in that early test animation. This teaser trailer definitely holds a lot of charm for me personally. There was a time when this was the only piece of media related to Cars, before it became the behemoth of a franchise that it is now. While there isn't any type of story in the teaser, it does introduce us to at the time what was a fairly unique concept. Granted, talking vehicles was nothing new or original to Pixar, with these types of stories existing for years in storybooks, short films and TV series before Cars even came out, but definitely a full feature-length production using this concept was a fresh way to present it. The actual race isn't even a minute long, but still managed to cram a lot of tension and excitement in there. Green Day's westbound sign really adds a lot of flavour to it as well. I love the look of the racers here. While they might look basic, they do look quite gritty with the angry facial expressions, showing how determined they all are to win. I also like the pit stop section. It perfectly encapsulates how this procedure is done in this world of talking vehicles compared to the human world. I do like how a lot of the camera shots ended up being used in the final movie too, albeit changed up slightly. By far my favourite part of this teaser has to be the use of the original Lightning McQueen model. I think it's really cool how rather than just keeping the model in the archives, they found a way to put it out there into some form of public media, so it was able to get a bit of exposure. Obviously no one knew at the time that this was supposed to be the main character of Cars, but when you realise this in hindsight years later, it's a really cool Easter egg and inclusion to the trailer. It also adds a bit of humour, as since the race is presented as a movie that Lightning McQueen and Beta are watching, McQueen is actually watching his older self. Quite a funny fourth wall moment. The original Lightning McQueen getting into that scrap with what was most likely the original Chick Hicks really did give us a taste of what was to come in the actual movie, and it's cool to see an early interpretation of their rivalry. Ultimately, when it comes down to this trailer, there isn't really a whole lot to talk about, but I just decided to make this video as this teaser really does hold some value for me, considering the fact that I saw it before Cars was even out in the cinemas, so it definitely did its job of getting me excited for the release all those years ago. Anyway, that's all I've got for now. I apologise for not having any videos up for a while, as I've been rather busy, and I know this wasn't really my best video, but it was still a good one to make, and it's helped to ease me back into this routine of producing these. I do always enjoy making them. With that said, I'm now sure that part 2 of my Fox and the Hound series will definitely be the next upload now following this. But for now, I've been Jay the Taz, and I'll see you next time.